Christianity is facing an existential threat in Nigeria. Thousands and thousands of Christians are being killed. Radical Islamists are responsible for this mass slaughter. I am hereby making Nigeria a country of particular concern. That's a legal definition. When the Christians or any such group is slaughtered, like is happening in Nigeria, 3,100 versus 4,476 worldwide. What horrible numbers. Something has to be done. I am asking Congressman Riley Moore, together with Chairman Tom Cole and the House Appropriations Committee, to immediately look into this matter and to report back to me. And I mean, like, immediately. The United States cannot stand by while such atrocities are happening in Nigeria and numerous other countries. It's not only Nigeria, it's all over. We stand ready, willing, and able to save our great Christian population around the world. This is not going to happen. The killing of Christians is not going to happen.
The situation in Nigeria must be understood from a historical context. And that history gives you a Nigeria which, when the North and the South came together, there was what could be described as the Muslim North, and for want of a better term, the Christian South, or like the Christian South. But remember, there are also other African religions, but that is the preferred definition. With the consequence that Nigeria has always had tension of one kind or another, the tension that led to the civil war in Biafra, which was not founded on Christianity at all, and of course the many coup d'etats that saw at that time in the 1960 of the killing of people like P.L.O from the North, and the imposition of the military administration. But to come to more recent history is that there are elements within Nigeria in the north, and this came to the fore in the year 2009 with the formation of what is now popularly known as Boko Haram by Yusuf Mahmoud. When Yusuf Mahmoud formed Boko Haram at that time, there were a number of things that were defining the philosophy. And remember that the version of Islam that he propagated is Salafism. And Salafism is a sect of Sunni Muslim. And the argument was that they want to restore Nigeria to the original Islam as was practiced by the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. When that happened in 2009, of course, Muhammad Yusuf was arrested. And when he was arrested and he died in jail, he became a martyr. And that changed the complexion of Boko Haram, which means Western education is bad, if you were to render it in simplistic terms. And the whole idea, and this is what they were selling at that time, what is the value of this education where you get education but there are no jobs, there are no opportunities? And that appealed to very many young people in northern Nigeria. And that is why it is characterized as Muslims rising against Christians. When Mahmoud Yusuf died in prison and Abubakar Shekau then became the leader of Boko Haram, there were then quite a number of splits within the Boko Haram that we knew, with allegiance being declared to Al-Qaeda in Iraq and in Syria. Meanwhile, activities then heightened and they started killing persons because of their religious affiliation. But it must also be remembered that even Muslims were killed in the process. But the declaration was that we want to Islamize not only the northern part of Nigeria, but the entire Nigeria and introduce Sharia law. But these activities were not confined to Nigeria. It was along the Chad basin, so that Chad was affected, Niger was affected, and even Cameroon was affected. But of course, the theater of action is Nigeria. The consequence of that now has been that they have engaged in activities which have led to the death of many. You remember the bombing of the UN offices in Abuja, which led to the death of 23 people. You remember the Chibok girls, when they raided schools and picked the Chibok girls, some of whom are still in custody. And when, of course, Shekau himself died, or is said to have committed suicide because there were splits within Boko Haram. We now have a situation where we have an organization which has different factions. And these factions are operating sometimes at cross purposes, and Boko Haram has been declared as a terrorist organization. And the effect of Boko Haram has been therefore to antagonize Christians. And we know that Christian clergy have been targeted. We know that churches have been targeted, and you've now created an environment that depicts these particular activities as targeting Christians. And indeed, there are Christians who have now come out and say that we are going to organize ourselves in order to resist this. But that must be contradistinguished with certain sober voices within Islam in Nigeria who say that this is a terrorist organization, should be seen as such, and we should therefore not condemn the entire Islam. But as the saying goes, bad news spreads faster than good news. So what do we have in the popular media? Muslims or Muslim organizations are killing Christians. What is the reaction from different people? Let us resist them. Let us resist what has been described in different quarters as the Arabization and Islamization of Africa. And this is the context in which we now find Nigeria being a point of reference from no lesser space than the United States of America. The United States of America, through the President Donald Trump, is saying, if Nigeria cannot protect Christians, we are going to move in viciously. and we are going to do so to protect Christians. And I think Trump is being advised that the Nigerian government is working softly on this issue because President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a Muslim, because Vice President Shetima is also a Muslim, and that if it were different, they would behave differently. But from where I sit, that is not necessarily the case. And these are individuals who are known to me. My own view is that you are dealing with an organization which is out of control, which is engaged in unconventional warfare, and it's not going to be easy to defeat them because they are not your regular army wearing army uniform. They are not arranged and organized in battalions and brigades. They could be somebody who is walking in the street and propagating the agenda. They hit when you don't expect, and they hit what you don't expect. Even when you say you are going to bomb them, who are you going to bomb? Where? In which location are they crowded that you'll bomb them and finish them? These are the questions must be called into question. And you can see and hear the reaction of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and by extension the Nigerian government. They reacted by saying they welcome the United States of America to help them fight Boko Haram. That is the situation as it is. What is happening diplomatically, we may not know. But you've seen a world where there is a new hegemon who believes they are going to fight for Christianity anywhere and everywhere. That is the situation as it is now. You know, when we talk about Nigeria and we talk about the pronouncement of President Trump, many things come to mind. Number one, why is Trump saying what he's saying? Is he saying it for Christian domestic consumption? Is he the latter-day defender of Christianity? And what I'm saying is a matter of speculation, and I think he's addressing many audiences. Remember, he rode on the crest of evangelical Christians to become the president for what is now called Trump 2. And he's telling them, in this day and age, when Christianity is on the decline and Islam is on the ascendance, I am the leader of what can be described as Christianity. And when Christianity is addressed anywhere in the world, or is threatened anywhere in the world, I'll be that leader in the world who will come out and defend Christianity. That is to the American audience. To the Nigerian audience, he's also saying, oh, you cannot be protected by your administration. I'm the leader of the free world. This free world, which was created by Christendom, is under threat. And I am that leader who knows no boundaries. I'm that leader who is going to be your latter-day savior. I'm that leader who is going to come and do what is necessary in order to protect you. I am the peacemaker. Remember that President Trump is on record as saying that he's the one who deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. I'm God's gift to the world. I run around the world and do only one thing, make peace. You saw me making it in Gaza. You see me trying to make it in Ukraine. You see me everywhere. You see me making peace between Thailand and Cambodia. I am that person. But I'm doing it because of a Christian ethic. That is my interpretation of what President Trump is trying to do. The other thing that he's trying to do is to send a message to the emerging powers or other powers in the world. He's sending a message to China, sending a message to Russia, sending a message to the BRICS world. Remember, you may make a claim to New World Order, but from where I sit, there is only one order, and that order is the order as dictated by the United States of America. And if anybody were to doubt that interpretation, just listen to him during his address to the UN General Assembly when he's disparaging the UN and almost saying that the UN is good for nothing. And therefore, the only people and the only country that you can rely on is the United States of America. This United States of America, which is great. This United States of America that has military prowess. This United States of America, which is an economic giant. The only one that you can rely on. So these messages are, in my view, coded, addressing different audiences and lending themselves to different interpretations. And when you do that, then you confuse your enemy and you become mysterious to your enemies, real and perceived. And in the Nigerian situation, I think that is exactly what he's doing. And remember that President Trump has deliberately renamed the Department of Defense as the Department of War. So it's very clear that you've got to wage war, however you describe it, for purposes of telling the world, if you don't play ball, we are going to crush you. And see, his use of language is going to be swift, nasty, and sweet. I mean, that is a contradiction in terms, but he uses language in that way. What we are saying is very interesting, and it can be defined by this age-old saying that one man's or one person's freedom fighter is another's terrorist. And you and me and all of us know that the international agenda has always been dictated by Western narratives. So that if you look at the media via which we talk about events, if it is events between Russia and Ukraine, the people who articulate it for mass consumption will be the CNN, will be the BBC, will be Deutsche Welle, will be Radio France or France, the French media, will be Fox, and all those media will be Al Jazeera, which will also be influenced by the West. And that is what mass consumption is all about. And it is the West, and particularly the United States, that has taken the burden, in their view, of defining who is who. So if you don't do what is in the best interest of the United States of America, you don't do that which is in the best interest of Western Europe as led by the United States of America, then you are a dictator. You are a dictator because you are not doing their bidding. So Russia can say that you told us we are not moving 1 inch more to the east. And when they want to protect that with boots on the ground, you are a dictator. And that is not to be compared with what happened in the 1960s when the Russians, at the invitation of the Fidel Castro government, invited the Russians, and the Americans said, you cannot have Russian military hardware 90 kilometers away from the American shoreline. So it is the bullies always have their way, and they tell you what is right and what is wrong. That is the position in which we are. You and me have recently seen, those of us who are listening to this, who have seen what is happening in the United States of America, that there were riots or demonstrations throughout the United States of America in which Americans came out and said, no kings. And what were they saying? That their president appears to be governing through fiat, executive fiat. He's fighting everybody on site. He's fighting universities. He's fighting the military. He's fighting everybody on site. But yet, in popular media, even media that is not ordinarily pro-Trump, like CNN, are reluctant to label him a dictator. Fox, of course, will never allow him to be labeled a dictator, and even Western media will never label him a dictator. But you in Russia try to do that. You in China try to do that. You in Brazil try to do that. You in Nigeria try to do the same thing. You are a dictator who ought to be removed from office sooner rather than later. The narrative is defined by the United States of America and the European Union. And you can see how quick these institutions are normally inclined towards issuing statements about things. Sometimes they don't even understand. Sometimes they don't know. But they are quick to issue this statement and that statement and to condemn and say how they are going to interfere when it serves their interest. So it is still true, as this cliche goes, that international politics is still governed by the law of the jungle and through gunboat diplomacy. And that is what is happening. The weak are dominated. The strong dominate and define the agenda. You know, when I heard this statement that the United States of America has issued a statement that if the Boko Haram continue to kill Christians, America is going to invade Nigeria, I asked myself a number of questions. Number one, in which specific territory does the Americans believe that there is a group of people called Boko Haram, so that if you send your tomahawks there, you eliminate them? Number two, have they consulted the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and agreed with them that we need assistance in terms of intelligence and that therefore this will be a coordinated strike? Number three, have you understood what Boko Haram is all about? And have you understood the history of Boko Haram and that this is an ideology? And I asked myself a foundational question. Have the Americans not learned that, as they were told by the Afghans several years ago, that you have the watch but we have the time? Have they not learned from Vietnam that you can never defeat these people who are ideologically inclined? So unfortunately, if the United States of America were to use any military means in the hope of neutralizing Boko Haram, they'll be shocked, because there is not a group of people sitting somewhere who are waiting to be bombed called Boko Haram. Boko Haram, I believe, are individuals who are embedded in families. It is an ideology. It will metastasize like cancer. So it is something that I believe ought to be rethought. And I hope that the government of the United States of America will do that which is good and right, to consult with the administration of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and ask them if they need assistance. And if they need assistance, the kind of assistance that they need. If they need intelligence, let them be the ones that define what kind of intelligence. Otherwise, this nuclear approach to killing a mosquito or killing a tortoise, as it were, is one that will be met with utter defeat and utter regret. And if there was any doubt, see what has happened to Libya. If there was any doubt, see what happened to Syria.
The designation of Nigeria as a country of particular concern is something that should be of concern to both the sub and superstructure within the Nigerian space, because we're all stakeholders in the Nigerian project. Of course, like you rightly mentioned, the president has responded, and his response, of course, is politically and diplomatically correct. However, some pundits have alluded to the fact that the president should have been firmer in his response to President Trump, because you see, the reality is, as leaders, leaders must learn to be cautious. Leaders must learn to guard their utterances. Leaders must also learn to gauge their impulses. Trump is a figure that, like it or not, is somebody who the world sees as, or rather put differently, is the president of the most powerful country in the world. And so whatever rhetoric comes from Trump resonates with people. It has a way of going around the world. It becomes of global concern. And so therefore, there's the need for the government to ensure that it does more in terms of engaging with the United States government on all fronts. While statements could be firm or firmer, there's a need to also understand that we need to step back a bit and exhaust the diplomatic channels. And this is where it becomes very pertinent for the government of the day to understand that where people speak, myself included, on the need to ensure that diplomats are sent are posted to countries, it's not just mere rhetoric.
Yeah.
It's not because we want to have a conversation. It's not because we want to dent the image of the administration. It is because of phenomena and circumstances.
I'm sure you're referring to the fact that we don't yet have ambassadors.
We do not have ambassadors in countries, and this is worrisome. For a situation of this magnitude, it is expected that it is an ambassador who has presented his certificate to the government of that country that should engage with the president of that country. A chargé d'affaires cannot do this. And so therefore, this is where it becomes pertinent. Of course, having said that, and given the circumstances and the status quo, I think what the government needs to begin to do is to articulate its position to further reinforce to President Donald Trump, because we understand, as far as measuring the character of Donald Trump is concerned, that he's an individual who perhaps doesn't even listen to cables. He might not even listen to reports that is coming from the chargé d'affaires, the ambassador of the United States in Nigeria. And so whatever is presented to him is what he takes and he runs with it. So this is the sort of individual we're dealing with here. And so there's a need to approach these issues with caution. You see, the rhetoric that has come from Trump is where the concern is. Concerns on twofold. The first is that he has created an impression, and that impression could actually go a long way in further balkanizing or intensifying the balkanization,
because perception matters
much more than reality, particularly in politics. And so therefore what that could do is that could further intensify the balkanization of the already fragile situation in which we're sitting on in this country, because we all know that this is a reality, even though these words are unspoken in most cases, but this is where we are. A lot of conflicts have been given religious undertone and religious coloration and ethnic coloration, and people have taken that and have run with it. And so when this sort of rhetoric begins to come from, a space that is supposed to be seen as revered, it becomes worrisome, it becomes dangerous. That's on the first hand. On the other hand, you also find that designation doesn't do us well. Like His Excellency has rightly mentioned, what it does is that it blackballs the country. And we need the support of these countries, particularly the developed countries, at least at this point in time, to ensure that we tame this crisis of insecurity and insurgency in our country. Because as it stands today, we do not have the military wherewithal. And so therefore, it is required that we will get them from outside. And so when this sort of rhetorics begin to play out, it is not very helpful, because it is a complete mischaracterization of the situation on the ground. But as far as Trump's guns blazing threat is concerned, it's not something that is foreseeable, it's not something that is doable, because we live in an international rule-based order system.
Earlier, already they have declared war on Plateau. As I'm talking to you, yesterday we buried in the night one corpse, and they killed 2 people again. This morning that I'm telling you, come and see Fulani terrorists were invited from Bauchi, other places. I was able to have a report from the insider, and the man spoke, and it comes to 2. This morning, as I'm talking to you, they are trooping into Doroa. They're outside behind Doroa, into Nyarwe village of Fan. Now what do you want us to do? We are going to defend ourselves to death. I was just coming from sector. I rushed to sector, but I didn't see the commander. At the same time, the Twice said the unit of the Roma side didn't give them report. My pastor in the village of Nyarwe, he has called me right now that the armies have withdrawn, which means something is wrong somewhere. All the youths in Nigeria, in Plateau State, Christian, if you are really a Christian, be on your knees, pray for us. We are going to defend ourselves to death. Imagine us visiting Ruga. We don't have that spirit. We don't have that mind. We are not wicked. We are not terrorists, and we will never be. But look at them, they are trying to enter our village now. I was just coming from the sector. As I've said, now I will troop in. I will go there. Even when some people are saying that I should not be there, I will be there with my people, because right here they are in the bush. They have arrived from Bauchi to cause confusion. Now I thank the 2IC to the commandant. He's mobilizing his men. They're saying they're going, because nobody get a report from that unit. Then they should hold the Nigerian army that are in that unit, whether police or joint task force. They should hold them responsible, because all the armies that are in that unit, they were 6, but they have withdrawn. Why? And there was no report to the sector command. Something is fishy. They are gambling with Nigerians. Please pray for me. If I die today, let it be, because I can't leave my people there. I'm going there. Pray for us. We will stand and defend ourselves to death by the power of Jesus. Now, already, 2 corpses are on the ground. We have not buried them. And the Fulani are chanting. They have the freedom to do what they have, because their leader, Yahya Jingri, have already said, giving command to the security, they should never arrest any Fulani. And they are obeying his command. What are we going to do? Self-defense. All villages, I will use this medium. All villages, the youth stand back. Rise up with anything that you have in your position to defend the children, the women that are pregnant, the old men that cannot run. Stand and do something. We are in a nation that Nigeria have already soloed out. The Supreme Court have already passed death sentence of that man in Adamawa. And look at what they have done. Because the man was defending his land, his crops. In that Eden, the Fulani man died. They have passed a sentence, so which means no Christian should react. No Christian. The Supreme Court of Nigeria have already passed death sentence on us. We should never defend ourselves. God, who is living in heaven, he will send his angel. They will stand by us by the power of Jesus Christ. Amen. Keep on praying for me. Keep on praying for my people. Because I'm back from India and I'm ready. If it is the place that I will die, let me die with my people. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And all the Christians that claim they are salt of the earth, but they have lost their saltiness. No Christian is talking. Even those in Asoro, they are silenced. Even the bishop, they are silenced. The overseers are silenced. The leaders are silenced. Because they have lost their saltiness and they are against Jesus Christ directly. They say, we are the salt of the earth and we have to preserve the nation from decay. We are to preserve. We are also to make the nation grow in a healthy way. We are to release peace. That is the nature of a true Christian. Since the Christian that cannot speak can be silenced because they are dead people spiritually. Their mindset is dead. Their conscience is dead. They don't have people at heart. They don't care to voice out what is happening in Nigeria. Why? Because they have sold their birthright. They have become Israel. Israel has sold his birthright to Jacob. And this is what is happening right here in Nigeria. Keep on praying for me. I choose to die than to live, to be performing burial every day. In the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, I will save you. Keep on praying for us. God is going to be with us.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump's renewed comments on taking potential military action against terrorists accused of committing atrocities against Christians in Nigeria have once again stirred global and domestic reactions. Trump's statement, which framed the ongoing violence in parts of Nigeria as Christian genocide, has been met with a mixture of caution, criticism, and calls for diplomacy. While his remarks highlight genuine concerns about religiously targeted attacks, experts note that such framing oversimplifies Nigeria's complex security crisis, which involves terrorism, banditry, and communal clashes that have claimed lives among both Christians and Muslims alike. Kenyan scholar and Pan-African advocate, Professor P.L.O. Lumumba responded firmly, cautioning against external military intervention in African affairs. He emphasized that Africa's challenges, including insecurity in Nigeria, must be addressed by Africans through institutional reform, justice, and unity, not through foreign force. Lumumba's view reflects a growing sentiment across the continent that while global attention is welcome, sovereignty and self-determination must be preserved. Within Nigeria, reactions have been divided. Some citizens and advocacy groups applauded Trump for drawing attention to the plight of persecuted communities, hoping it pressures local authorities to act decisively. Others, including lawmakers and civil society leaders, criticized the tone of Trump's statement, describing it as interventionist and diplomatically insensitive. In summary, while Trump's comments reignite global awareness of religious violence in Nigeria, the solution remains rooted in accurate investigation, collaborative diplomacy, and strengthened local security mechanisms. True peace will come not through threats of foreign military action, but through justice, interfaith dialogue, and the protection of all Nigerians, regardless of faith or region.
The world met in New York, the General Assembly. When African heads of states and government are speaking, the hall is empty. Nobody bothers, because they are saying nothing. And even if they are saying something, it is something that can be ignored. Compare when an African head of state and government is speaking and when the Prime Minister of Little Israel is speaking. They will listen. As I travel along across the world, people do not care about our Tanzanianness or our Ghanaianness or our Kenyanness or our Ethiopianness. In their eyes, we are all Africans. And perhaps that is what we should use as the building block in order to talk about African unity. The African Union, which is weak, says the right things and does the wrong things 9 out of 10 times. I fly from Nairobi, Kenya for 1.5 hours
I come from the shilling zone. 33 currencies in Africa, none of which is used to conclude transactions anywhere. 80% of transactions in Africa are concluded outside of the continent in dollars. Go to northern Mozambique. The gas that is there cannot be produced because there is conflict. Northern Mozambique. Go to Somalia, conflict. Here in your motherland, conflict. Go to South Sudan, conflict. Go to Sudan, conflict. Go to Libya, conflict. Go to Central African Republic, conflict. Go to the Democratic Republic of Congo, conflict. Go to Burkina Faso, conflict. Go to Mali, conflict. Go to Chad, conflict. Go to Niger, conflict. Go to Cameroon, conflict. Go to Nigeria, conflict. Do I go on? I do not believe that the tribe can be the basis of mobilization in Africa. As long as we remain the way we are, then Africa in the next 25 years will be recolonized.
We're gathered today on the one-year anniversary of the single most consequential election victory, they say. This is them, this isn't me. I'm a very modest person, I would never say this. The single most consequential election victory in American history. It's possible. I mean, it's possible. We've done a lot. On November 5th, 2024, the American people reclaimed our government. We restored our sovereignty. We lost a little bit of sovereignty last night in New York, but we'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. We rescued our economy, regained our liberty, and together we saved our country.